Good morning, all of you. So,
Good morning, ma'am.
yes, good morning. Okay, so let's have a recap of the history chapter, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Do you have your books with you, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. So, the chapter it starts with a picture here, and so this particular print, this picture is prepared by whom? Yes, hurry up.
Frederick Soru.
All right, and you need to know that which country he belonged to. So he belonged to France, and so in 1848 he prepared a series of four prints, and he in these particular prints he visualized as to how he wanted to see the world, which was made up of democratic and social republics. Earlier that was not the case under the monarchical system of government that was prevalent in the world during that time. And we normally had uh, so multinational dynasties here, and ruling not only in India but elsewhere in the world also. So like we are talking about Europe, so we have seen that there were so many different empires which were ruling over different countries, and even different countries as we know them of now, they were broken up into fragments, and different sections of the same country were ruled by different kings or different empires. And when he prepared this print, the world was not what we know as now, but so it was his dream as how he visualized the world to look like, comprising of democratic and social republics, means country which were democratic in nature, not ruled by monarchical form of government. And the first print which we have here now, it shows the people of Europe and America, and so they were men and women in this picture that we see here, and they are all people of all different social classes, and men women of all ages. They are marching in a long train, a long line, and they are paying respect to the Statue of Liberty as they pass through it. And you have all, while we did French Revolution in class 9th, you must have seen that liberty was personified as a female figure. And here we can also see the torch of enlightenment in one hand, and the charter of the rights of man and citizen in the other hand. And if you see that on the foreground in this image here, the picture here that you have in the book, in the foreground, if you see, so there are certain shattered pieces lying down, and now they are the remains of the absolutist institutions, means the remains, the destroyed pieces of the form of governments that were prevalent before democracy. And is now in his utopian version, means in his ideal vision, the people, they are grouped as proper distinct nations, and they are here identified through their flags and through their national costume. And means leading this whole train of procession, and they have passed the Statue of Liberty, are the United States and Switzerland. Now they were by this time already nation states. And France, now they can also be identified by their tricolor. Now they, in this particular picture, they have just reached the Statue of Liberty. And then France is followed by people of Germany, those who are bearing black, red, and gold flag. And now the interesting fact about this picture is that at the time when Soru he's created this image, the German people, they, at this time, they were still not a united nation. And the flag that they are shown to carry here, it is just a symbolic expression of their hopes to unify the German speaking nationalities into one nation. And So after the German people are the people of Austria, then the kingdom of the two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia. And then in the picture we also see that Christ, the saints, and the angels, they are also looking down. And so now the Christ, the saints, and the angels here, they are shown to symbolize the brotherhood, the fraternity among the nations of the world. And so in this particular chapter, we have already dealt with the various issues which are visualized here by Soru. And during the 19th century, nationalism means love and love for the nation, patriotism, and feeling unity and oneness with the nation. Now this emerged as a very strong force, and this force brought about great changes in the political and also in the mental world of Europe. And the end result of all the changes that this force brought about was the emergence, the establishment of the nation states in the place of multinational dynasties. The multinational dynasties which earlier ruled, so in place of that now we had the nation states. And now this concept of modern state, now what does a modern state comprise of? Now what it meant, that there would be centralized power a centralized power, and that power which would have uh, total control, sovereign control over a clearly defined territory. Means the boundary of the country would be clearly geographically clearly defined, and in that we'll have a central authority, that authority would be sovereign. And there will not be anyone dictating terms to that particular authority as to how to rule. And so a centralized power which will have sovereign control over a proper and distinguished boundary also. Now this concept, it has been developing in Europe for a long period of time. But modern state is that, but nation state, it differs in one way, is that nation state is one in which most of the people, the majority of the people, and not only the rulers but majority of the people also, they have certain oneness or shared some unity among themselves, and like they share maybe it could be a common descent, a common history, and a common culture. So a nation state was one in which the majority of the people or most of the people, they shared a common descent or a common history, a common culture. And now this commonness, this unity, obviously it was not there from time immemorial, but this unity has to be brought about, it had to be forged, it had to be made. And now this unity, it was brought about through struggles. And now this was through the actions of the common people and through the leaders also. And the like when we talked about the national movement in India, here also we had the northern kingdoms, the southern kingdoms, and even in North India, we had so many different dynasties ruling there at the same time, and the same in South India also. And after that, the Britishers, they came here and they were ruling here. And but the people, though they were in one geographical boundary India, but the people, they did not have any feeling of oneness or unity, and most of the time they were fighting with one another because they wanted to extend their boundaries and extend the empire, get more resources and all. So that was the case in Europe also. And now for the first time, like in India also, the unity, it came in the hearts and minds of people because they had a common enemy in the form of Britishers here, Britishers there. So in elsewhere in the world also, this unity, it had to be forged, it had to be brought about through struggles and with the actions of the common people and also of the leaders. And so this chapter, it will deal with the different processes through which nation states came to be forged in Europe, and how nationalism, it came into being. Earlier there was nothing like that, the spirit of nationalism, or like love for the nation and having a unity with the people living in the same geographical boundary. But during the 19th century, this new thing, nationalism and nation states, they became to be forged in Europe. Okay, so we'll have the French Revolution and the idea of the nation. Now the first expression of what this nationalism is, it came with the French Revolution in 1789. And at that time, France, it was a full territorial state, means it was having a political power over a definite territory. And now in 1789, they were under an absolute monarch. What is absolute monarchy? Yes, class 10th? What is absolute monarchy? Okay, what is monarchy?
And the decisions are made by only one people.
All right. Now, monarchy, basically the rule of the kings and the queens and, hereditary rulers. All right. So, people, after the father, the son ruled and all that. And, and absolute monarch would be a monarch whose powers were not limited by any constitution and who had his will, means on his will he could do as he wished. And so it was France in 1789, it was under the rule of an absolute monarch. And now the changes, the political changes, and along with it the changes which came in the constitution of France under the French Revolution. Now all these things, they brought about a change. And now this led to the transfer of of sovereignty from the monarchy to body. So what happened, the decision making power, all right, now it came from the monarchy to the citizens, to the common people. Like it is being in democracy, it is the way in democracy. The common people, they have the power, they have the sovereign, they have the sovereign power. And they are the government themselves, they select, they choose. And so all the changes which were brought about, the political and the constitutional changes that were brought about during the French Revolution, now they brought this decision making power from the, they took the power from the monarchy and transferred that decision making power to the, to a body of French citizens. Now the revolution, it proclaimed that now it would be the people who would make the destiny of the country. All right. Now, from the very beginning, the French revolutionaries, they introduced many measures and practices. And they introduced many measures and practices to create a sense of collectiveness, a sense of unity, a sense of oneness among the French people. And so, that is why they talked about la patrie, fatherland, so they call their country. And then les citoyens means all are citizens. And we have already seen that monsieur and madam, the words, these words were not used as much. And citoyen means all were citizens, so all were equal, equality was promoted through that. And then they emphasized the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights, so under a constitution. So in the, under the French Revolution only, from the very beginning, the people, the revolutionaries, they were talking, they used to talk about terms which would bring the people together. So they talked about fatherland, and they talked about the citizen, and they talked about a community, a group of people which will have equal rights, and these rights would be given to the people through a constitution. Like we have now, we have a constitution, and under the constitution all the people are given equal rights. But when we were doing French Revolution, we saw that there were the people, the different people belonging to the different estates, they were not treated equally. And so that is why here they were talking about the creation of a new state where all the people would be treated equally, and they would be under a particular constitution, a new constitution. And so they had a new French flag, which was a tricolor. And so it was chosen to replace the old flag. And the Estates General, it was it was elected by the body of active citizens, and it was renamed as the National Assembly. And during the wake of French Revolution, new hymns, new songs were composed, and people, they took oath, and so many people laid down their lives, and all this was done in the name of nation, or all that was done in the name of the country. And then what that in France, it basically meant that there would be a central administrative system, and that will have same equal laws for all the citizens within their territory. So a proper notified territory, a central administrative system which will have same laws for all the people. And so the internal custom duties and dues, they were abolished, and a uniform system of weights and measures was adopted. And because earlier the same nation, it was divided into smaller parts, so each territory, each territory which was free autonomous territories, they had their own rules and regulations, they had their own weights and measures. So all the custom duties and all the internal custom duties, they were abolished, and a same system, a uniform system of weights and measures, it was also adopted. Then people who spoke in their regional languages, now they were discouraged, and French, as it was spoken and written in Paris, now that became the common language of the nation. And all this was done to bring about a unity and oneness among the people. And the revolutionaries, now they did not stop here, and they further declared that it was the mission and the destiny of the French nation to liberate the rest of the people of Europe also from despotism, means from the rule of absolute monarchs. So now they did not stop with their country, they wanted this freedom to go abroad in the whole Europe, and then that in the whole of Europe also nation states would be formed, and this monarchy, it will come to an end. And so they thought that they would liberate, it was their destiny to liberate the other people of Europe also from despotism. And basically it means to help the other countries or the other people of Europe to become nation states. Now when the news of the events which were going on in France, they reached the different cities of Europe, students and other members, people belonging to the educated middle classes, they also began to set up the Jacobin club. You have already studied about the Jacobin clubs. And so their activities and the campaigns which were prepared by these people, now they already prepared the way when the French armies, when they moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, and in Italy in 1790s. And then revolutionary wars outbroke, and so the French armies, they began to carry this idea of nationalism to the other parts of Europe also. Okay, so for today's class, we'll stop here. Uh, any confusion till here?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
All right. So we will continue tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.